Hello everyone, Jay Whitner here with Space Headlines. We do a quick review of what's going on each month in the space arena, and today we're going to be covering the first half of November of 2017. A lot of people are looking forward to an event that's upcoming toward the end of the year that's been in the news, and this is the first launch of the Falcon Heavy rocket. It's currently predicted that this launch will occur no earlier than December 29th. So we're a little bit ahead on this, but it is a major event. This would be the world's most powerful rocket, the most powerful rocket since the last Saturn V took off. When the event happens, the two side boosters would land at Cape Canaveral, with the core landing on a drone ship out in the Atlantic. Richard Branson is in the news again. He started up another space company. I think this is the fourth space company that he's founded. It's called Vox Space, and this is going to support Virgin Orbit, their new small payload service to LEO. And Vox Space is going to work with Virgin Orbit to provide integration, analysis, and launch services. We've all heard about the Deep Space Gateway that is projected to be out near the moon. NASA is moving forward on this and has issued study contracts for the power and propulsion module that will support the Deep Space Gateway. And they awarded 5 different contracts to Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Orbital ATK, Sierra Nevada, and Space Systems Around. The total value of the 5 contracts is about $2.5 million, and we'll see what they come up with for the power and propulsion module. China is pursuing reusability. I guess lots of folks are now that Mr. Musk has blazed a trail in this regard. But China is intending to develop a reusable spaceplane that would be in service by 2020 is the goal. This would be both for cargo and for crew. It's a horizontal takeoff and landing approach, and it would be used to support the Chinese space station, which is targeted for going into service in the early 2020s, and China's ambitions about the moon, to send people to the moon around 2030. Perhaps the most exciting bit of news is more of a financial thing, sort of, than a space thing in some regards. But we saw a while back, Morgan Stanley made a projection that the space industry was going to triple in size over the next 20 years to become a $1 trillion industry. Bank of America disagrees. Instead of a $1 trillion industry, they are foreseeing a $3 trillion space industry in 30 years. This is approximately an 8-fold increase in the scope of space activity, and just delightful to see conservative bankers looking to the future with an optimistic assessment of where things are going, and it's delightful. SpaceX was doing some engine testing work for a new rocket engine that they plan to deploy into a future version of the Falcon 9 rocket. And the engine blew up on the test stand. Nobody got hurt. It's the Block 5 Merlin engine, and it will not affect the launch manifest at all for SpaceX because this engine is not currently in service. This is an engine that they're developing for future use. So back to the drawing boards for this Merlin engine. Since we got into this whole private partnership thing that SpaceX has been such a large part of, there have been various studies about what sort of savings have been generated by this public-private partnership approach. There's a new study out of Kennedy Space Center, and the short version is that the the work that NASA has done with SpaceX, they think it costs about 40% of what a traditional NASA effort would have cost to do similar activities. Now, as I mentioned a moment ago, there have been a lot of these studies, and some of them indicate that it's cost a third of what NASA would have cost, or a fourth of what NASA would have cost. So there's not really agreement on exactly what the savings have been. It depends on how you try to analyze the figures. But it's crystal clear that the savings have been huge. All the studies seem to agree on that. So good news that we did this with SpaceX, and hopefully we'll continue to pursue public-private partnerships. Sierra Nevada has had a nice breakthrough. They had a drop test from a helicopter where their Dream Chaser spaceplane glides down and lands on a runway. And they did this and everything was successful. The last time they had done this was several years ago, back in 2013. So this test went well. And if NASA signs off on the results of this free flight, that makes it the final milestone of a contract that Sierra Nevada had with NASA worth $227 million. This is the last step of that. The intent is for Dream Chaser to take cargo up to the International Space Station and to also return samples from the space station. One unique aspect of this type of vehicle is the G-loadings on your samples are much friendlier than they are with a capsule. So if you have anything really fragile that you're trying to bring back to Earth, a craft like Dream Chaser has a nice advantage there. We have had Senate hearings by a committee of the Senate about the President Trump's administrative nominee to run NASA. And it was kind of interesting to follow what was going on. The committee voted in approval of the nominee, but it was quite close. It was a party line kind of a vote, with Republicans in favor and Democrats against. And much of the criticism from the Democrat side didn't have to do with NASA. It had to do with the nominee's position on other things. So it's one more step along the path of Bridenstine's being approved by the Senate. I'm not sure of the timing of when this will go to the Senate for a full Senate vote, but hopefully he will be confirmed by the full Senate quickly, because if not, who knows how long it would take the White House to identify a new nominee and go through the process all over again. We need to get started with nominees, and NASA can move forward. In a very interesting development, NASA is going to work with Orbital ATK to use the Cygnus spacecraft in a whole new way. Cygnus is part of the space station resupply. Cygnus takes supplies up to the space station. All the supplies are unloaded. And what's happened in the past then is Cygnus is filled up with garbage from the ISS, and then Cygnus re-enters and burns up. So each Cygnus spacecraft has been used up with each flight. On this mission, though, Cygnus went up to the space station with the cargo, and the cargo is unloaded, and they're going to keep Cygnus up there, and they're going to outfit Cygnus as a lab space on the space station. This is a little bit similar to the Beam expandable module from Bigelow Aerospace that was deployed to ISS a little over a year ago, and has been sort of serving as storage space on the space station, and has been doing very well in terms of it's being airtight and durable and reliable and so forth. The Cygnus spacecraft is going to go a step further, and it's going to be outfitted as a lab for research on the space station. That's our coverage for the first half of November of 2017. Hope you enjoyed our show. Happy Thanksgiving. And look for us 2 weeks from now. We'll go through it again. Take care.